Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. So, I guess Friday didn't disappoint. Remember, I always say things kick off and things escalate on a Friday. So, over the night, last night, and there was a big time difference from Friday in the United Kingdom and Friday in the CHAGOS Islands. However, it is being reported that British bases are now being attacked. The British base in the CHAGOS Islands, which is British territory, has been attacked. Now, the United Kingdom is at a clear risk from Iranian missiles. We're going to be, excuse me, we're going to be talking about that today initially. Also, what I want to touch on is the news that Donald Trump has. Well, I'll share this first, actually. So yesterday, you guys on the live stream, we were all talking about it actually happened in real time when we were streaming. It came out the United States have started their assault to open the Strait of Hormuz. Now it turns out Donald Trump says the US considering winding down war in Iran, but other nations must guard Hormuz. So it turns out he's saying, no, that's not the case at all. Listen, 3 years, all right? Don't listen to anyone unless they're giving you guys a 3 to 5 year estimate on this conflict. Now, that's where we need to look at, and that's what we need to understand before there's going to be any stability in that region again. Just the fact that the amount of energy infrastructure that's being destroyed in this conflict is phenomenal. You can't just click a button. It's, building this energy infrastructure. It's not like going to IKEA. And buying one of these facilities and you bring it back to Qatar or wherever, and you unpack it and it's all flat pack and you just read the instructions. You can't. You have to have engineers surveys, you have to have ground surveys, you have to have huge amounts of groundwork, refurbishing. It's a difficult task. It takes a long time to rebuild these things. I know. I've done it myself. I built. Well, I didn't build it myself. I was working for BP in the South Ramallah oil fields in Iraq. Took maybe 2 to 3 years to build that camp. What's it called? Rue Camp, ROO Camp. I don't know. I think it's called Rue Camp. It's near. It's just south of CMPC. Anyway. These things take a long time, right? They take a long time to build. And when they're being built, they're also under attack when they're being built. It's difficult to work, guys. So best case scenario right now is this thing will stop in 3 years. However, look for 3 to 5 years and just don't listen to anybody else if they're saying anything different. If people are saying anything less than 3 to 5 years for this conflict, they don't know what they're talking about. Right, so I'm going to jump onto the CHAGOS Islands, Diego Garcia. Now, in fact, I'll show you where this is first. Let me show you guys where this is. So Diego Garcia, or the CHAGOS Islands, is here. Let me find it. Right, yesterday I was looking. So there you've got Iran, and then the CHAGOS Islands is down here somewhere. Round about, let's have a little zoom in. It's round here somewhere, guys. It's round here. Let's zoom in. There we are. I was miles off. Right, the CHAGOS Islands is here. Right, it's not. So this is the CHAGOS Islands, and let me just put a pin there. Yeah. So that's the CHAGOS Islands there, guys. Literally where that British. No, you can't see it now. Anyway, basically, the CHAGOS Islands is there, and that's the strategic importance for Iran because the US long-range bombers can fly sorties into Iran. Now, it looks nice, the CHAGOS Islands, guys. I bet you could go there on holiday. The thing about the CHAGOS Islands, guys, is nobody really cares about it. It's this thing here, this runway. Huge runway. I don't know if you guys can see that. screen will take a couple of seconds to load up. But that, yeah, there you go, guys. That's Diego Garcia. The runway at Diego Garcia is probably about 4 kilometers long. 4 kilometers long. You can pretty much land anything on 4 kilometers. And that's it, guys. That's the significance of the CHAGOS Islands. So much. There's another little bit of CHAGOS up here as well somewhere. There. That's part of the CHAGOS Islands. That little thing there as well. Anyway, all right, let's get back onto Iran. So the significance of these CHAGOS Islands is their ability to project air power in that region. Now, there's a little bit of context before I get on to what happened last night with these ballistic missiles that were fired into to the CHAGOS Islands. Britain, that's British territory, right? Britain own it. You know, when people say, like, oh, it's just off the coast of, it's not. It's not just off the coast of anywhere, guys. It's literally in the middle of nowhere, right? Britain, we own that island right now. Britain own that island. Now, the British government want, for no reason, they want to give those islands to Mauritius. They just want to give them to Mauritius. And for the discomfort of us giving Mauritius and those islands, I think we've got to pay them something like, it's in the billions, basically. Anyway, it's a ridiculous deal. It's insane. But that's the CHAGOS Islands for you guys. So in a dramatic escalation, sending shockwaves in the United Kingdom, Iran has launched 2 ballistic missiles straight towards the CHAGOS Islands, or Diego Garcia. That's the remote joint US military base in the CHAGOS Islands, deep in the Indian Ocean. This happened on Friday, just after Prime Minister Keir Starmer finally gave the green light for the Americans to use British bases, UK bases to hit a fresh set of Iran's missile sites in the ongoing war. US officials speaking I think they were speaking to the Wall Street Journal, confirmed the launches. 2 intermediate range ballistic missiles fired from Iran aimed at Diego Garcia. Thankfully, neither of them hit the target. One reportedly failed mid-flight. It was just a failure. While the US Navy fired an interceptor at the other one. Now, whether they actually took it down or something else happened, I don't know, but it does look like I would say it was a successful intercept. Now, this marks the longest strike we've seen from Iran since Operation Epic Fury started 28th of February. Diego Garcia is roughly 4,000 kilometers from southern Iran, which is way beyond their longest range missiles that they have publicly. So I'm starting to question what they were actually using, because I think their longest missile, the range of their longest missile is like 2,000 kilometers. However, they may have just fired it and hoped for the best. Like, can you just see where it goes? However, what we can take from that is one of 2 things, really. One, the Iranians don't actually know the range of their own missiles and decided to waste 2 of them by just firing them into the Indian Ocean. Or 2, they've got kit and equipment that we don't know about. I would say it's the latter, right? So, yeah, Diego Garcia, roughly 4,000 kilometers from southern Iraq, which is Iran, which is way beyond the 2,000 kilometer range that the Iranian officials have publicly claimed their missiles have. So this attempt, this attempted attack raises real questions about whether Iran's capabilities have been underestimated, or if they've been quietly extending the range of their missiles, or if they've had outside help, potentially from the Russians. Now, unverified posts on social media picked up around 9 p.m. GMT on Friday claimed radar systems in the Persian Gulf had detected the launches, but the details on how far the missiles actually traveled before falling or being intercepted are a little bit sketchy. For Britain, this is, if you live in the United Kingdom, of course, the CHAGOS Islands are not part, you know, they're not close to home. However, they are still part of British territory, part of the Chagos archipelago, even as we agreed to, in principle, hand over sovereignty back to Mauritius while keeping them on lease and paying paying a shitload of money. It's a vital hub to the United States and allied operations in that region. And now it's directly in the crosshairs because of our support for the Americans in this conflict. So Keir Starmer's decision to allow the United States the use of the base comes after weeks of hesitation and some public humiliation from Donald Trump, who called out the allies. He quite openly, quite publicly said that Keir Starmer is no Winston Churchill. Listen, right, there's a lot of people having there's a lot of people right now. You know, I'm going to do a short video later, and I'm going to do that video. And on that video, I'm going to say, I think the title of the next video I'm going to do, it'll only be a short video, is why I still support Trump, right? What we are going through right now was always going to happen, guys. It was always going to happen. That, you know, whether it was Donald Trump in charge, whether it was sleepy Joe Biden, whether it was Hillary, it doesn't matter who was in charge right now. This was always going to happen. And I would just prefer Donald Trump to be there, to be honest. I think Donald Trump, like Elon Musk, understands the forces that he's working with. And he's trying to mitigate that as the best that he can for the American people. And although people in America may not feel like that, may not feel like it at the moment, I do think it's it could be a lot worse, basically. You know, it could be a lot worse. There could be boots on the ground. I think that's going to come anyway. But Donald Trump is clearly pushing back to boots on the ground, guys. He really is. He's absolutely pushing back on the prospect of boots on the ground. He's trying to do everything in this conflict that he can, from the air, from the sea. Unfortunately, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You need boots on the ground. Taking things by, you can take things, you know, you can destroy things by the air. You can take ground from the sea. You can take ground from the air. You can't hold ground from the sea, from the air. You can't do it, guys. You can only hold ground if you've got boots on the ground. And the only way to open the Strait of Hormuz is to have boots on the ground in that whole northern Bull region, just north of the Strait of Hormuz. That's it. Right, that is literally it, guys. Nothing else. So Donald Trump, he's been calling out allies, calling them cowards, calling Keir Starmer no Winston Churchill, which is true. But with Iran now targeting what's effectively a piece of British land, this feels like a direct message or a warning shot at the very least. Not just at Washington, but us here in the United Kingdom too. So on a wider spectrum now, what fanatics will be seeing in the United Kingdom, you know, what people like, listen, we already had it yesterday, didn't we? When 2 people were arrested at the at Faz Lane, the UK naval base where the nuclear submarines are. Some people now, you'll get the crazies in the United Kingdom who are seeing the Iranians attack Britain, attack British. This may be this may be an international signal for the for the sleeper cells to activate. There will be people now in the United Kingdom who are pro Iranian IRGC regime, not the Persians, and they will be looking at this and thinking, oh, okay, so British targets are now fair game as per the Iranian regime because they're firing ballistic missiles. This war's already rolling on, guys. It's rolling. It's destroying oil markets. It's making things spike. It's giving people global anxiety. The price at the pump displaced millions, claiming thousands of lives. Now this is spilling far beyond the Middle East into the Indian Ocean, and Britain itself finds itself entangled in this conflict. Whether this pushes us towards deeper involvement, I don't think so, or forces a rethink on our role remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the stakes have just risen. So what I think is going to happen in the next, and this has to happen really quick, guys. very soon, not, what did we say? Not this weekend, not next week. What did we say? The 2nd and 3rd, April the 2nd, April the 3rd. That's the time, that weekend. That's when I'm saying there's going to be a big escalation in Eastern Europe. I don't know what it's going to be. Unfortunately, I can't. I've been speaking to people on the front line. There's internet blackouts. They don't know what the Russians are doing, so I can't tell you guys where this is coming. But if it's going to happen, it needs to happen soon. And that's the date I believe it will happen. And what will happen then is people in the United Kingdom will just forget about what's happening in Iran because nobody will be talking about it. All the news media in the United Kingdom will be focused on what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Estonia, what's happening in Poland. I've got a friend traveling out there actually on the 5th. I said, mate, you might want to get some insurance on your flights. Anyway, so that's what's happening right now in that. What's happening there? Right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me jump on the onto the chat. Good morning. James Brooke is saying people knock Iran, but their missile and drone technology is advanced. They make so much money from oil. Won't they just build missiles and launchers again? Yeah. So one of the things that it's difficult to. It's not difficult, actually. It's quite simple, but for some reason, people don't understand it. If you are an invading force, like the United States, for example, they've sent the U.S. Navy there, and the U.S. Navy's gone there with all their stuff. On those ships, they have a finite amount of drones, right? They have a finite amount of missiles. They have a finite amount of air defense. They have limited supplies, right? They can't produce any more on that ship. That's just the way it goes, guys. The Iranians, they have the raw materials, they have the factories, and they have the production capacity. So for the Iranians, they can keep producing these things. They can keep producing these things over and over and over again. While the forces in and around them, they need to be resupplied. You can sink a ship. You can, guys. Counter to popular belief, you can absolutely sink ships. All right, they're made of steel. They sink. Countries, they're like, they're heavy. They're stuck to the ground. You can't sink a country. Very difficult, anyway, to sink a country. So these things are very simple to understand, but for some people, for people on the mainstream, they just don't know what they're talking about. Another thing to throw into that equation as well, James, people can knock Iran, but their missile and drone technology is advanced. It's fast. It's fast. They're using cheap drones to overwhelm expensive air defenses, right? I shared with you guys a little video the other day. I shared with you guys the little video the other day where it's like a little cartoon, and he was saying, "Hi, I'm a Shaheed 132. I cost $20,000. I'm built to deplete air defenses." And then he's saying, "They fire a Patriot defense missile at me that costs $3 million. They can't keep doing that. Those costs are wrong. I would say a Patriot missile is like maybe 1.5 million at the most. And that particular Shaheed drone, unless it's a decoy drone and it's got some explosives in, which most of them do now, you're looking at maybe 50, 60,000. But still, you guys can understand firing a 1.2, 1.5 million interceptor at a $60,000 drone. It's not, it's not a financial. Can you imagine that on Dragon's Den? Hi, hey Dragons, I'm Raven, and I've got an idea for a missile interceptor for the military-industrial complex. I'm going to build this missile, and it's going to cost 1.5 million. And with this missile, we're going to take down drones that are worth $60,000. Sean, I see serious flaws in your business plan, and for that reason, I'm out. Legal Order is saying Israel and Ukraine are now cooperating. Right, okay. Was they not cooperating? I don't know if they were not cooperating. Listen, Somebody, listen, I know there's somebody on here who knows what I'm talking about, because I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm talking about 100% in this. I'm going to give you guys some biblical text, right? I'm going to give you guys some biblical text. Now, doesn't it say somewhere in the Bible when Russia attacks Israel, that's one of the signs of the end times? Doesn't he say that somewhere in the Bible? I'm pretty sure it does. Catalytic Converter is saying, bit random, I live not far from the Kingsbury Oil and Fuel Depot. I've not seen it this busy, almost constant conveyor belt of tankers and trucks coming in out till late. Well, you would assume that people are trying to get as much oil as, you know, as much as they can now. Right. Good morning, Four Paws. Good morning. Right. Clarendon is saying, I think the Iran war is nearly over. They'll shift focus to Ukraine. Like you say, Trump has to retreat. I think he's going to continue for a long time, the Iran war. It has to. So so remember what I always say on this channel, guys, okay? A war is only over when both sides say it is, right? So if the United States say, okay, we're finished, we won, and they sail away, and the Iranians go, no, we're not done, and they fire a load of missiles at the, and sink one of their ships or something, or fire a load of, a barrage of missiles somewhere else. A war is only over when both sides agree that it's over. The Iranians, I don't think they're going to agree it's over. They've had a real good, they've had a beating, guys, the Iranians. Now, the fact that the Iranians can still fire missiles at the CHAGOS Islands, and again, I don't know what missiles they used. Their longest range missile, hang on, I think I've got this up here, yeah. So the longest range missile, where is it? There we are. So from Wikipedia, the longest range missile that the Iranians have is this Karamshah. Now, there, look, 2,000 kilometer range, carrying 1.8 ton. So that's a big warhead. So at 2,000 kilometers, that is a huge. That's like by half. They can't hit the islands by half. So, like I said previously, one of two things are happening here. Either they were just firing them and hoping for the best and wasting two of their missiles, which I'm going to assume are expensive, or they have capability that we don't know. Which I would suspect. Now, it makes perfect sense that would be the case, right? That they would develop their missiles and not I mean, do you think Britain publicly announced all the kit and equipment they've got? Do you think America announced all the kit and equipment they've got, all the secret kit and equipment? No, of course not. And this is what, when you see these people on the TV, these older men in the suits, we need to know what Britain's job is. Guys, look, trust me, we don't need to know. All right. There's a lot of stuff that the public just don't need to know, and they shouldn't know. Karen on the tills at Asda, she does not need to know the propellant in Britain's first stage nuclear deterrent. She doesn't need to know that. All right. It's not going to help her at all. Chloe, what's up, love? Are we going to skeggy this weekend? No, I ain't got no diesel. But have you heard what Britain's got in its first stage propellant? I think it's solid fuel, man. They don't need to know this. They literally, people don't need to know this, all right? That said, we can speculate, right? And, we don't need to know. It's interesting. Now, the fact that the Iranians can still fire these ultra long range missiles, potentially with a range of 4,000 kilometers, that says to me, at least, that the United States have not taken down their, have not been able to take down the Iranians' long-range missile capability. That's what I would say. So their military, their military objectives have clearly not been met. Debbie Doobs is saying, I told my daughter, rightly or wrong, we are in this war now and have to pick a side. I guess she picked. Yeah, I think that's right. I say this all the, like, again, I've said this like before this even started. I said to everybody, I said, listen, guys, all right, we are going to be in a situation very soon where none of this is going to matter. Who did what with whose rent boys, who fired missiles, who blockaded, who sent drones, none of it's going to matter. Because when you're, like I always say, guys, okay, when you're trying to avoid wars, look, right, if you're new to the channel, all right, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit those buttons down below, like, comment, subscribe, like, just down there, guys, little buttons. If you're new to the channel, I think, and I firmly believe, I've been to every conflict zone, except from the one in the Middle East that's going on now. I've been to all of them since 1999, all of them, right? And I can confirm they're all pointless. 10 years after the conflict's over, everything's back to normal and nobody cares. Nothing really changes. I think humans should build spaceships rather than like weapons of war. However, we're not there yet. I think you should avoid wars at all costs. At all costs, you should avoid wars. However, if you find yourself in a war, you should do everything to win that war. And I mean all sides. Like, the Iranians, they should do everything they can to win this war. The Americans and the Israelis, they should do everything they can to win this war. And very soon, when we've potentially next weekend, when we've committed boots on the ground in Ukraine, Britain needs to do everything to win this war against Russia. So that's where we're going to be. Silly Gallardi is saying Russia, Ukraine are giving information reference drones. Silly Gallardi, you can ask me for that information. I will give it you for free. Right, okay. Googlinos is saying there's been another attack. Yeah. One of the boys won't be able to be named because he's 17. But what do we think the name of the other boy is, guys? What do we think the name of the other boy is? Ileana is saying, according to Omani journalists on BBC Arabic, the US is demanding that Gulf Cooperation Council countries pay massive sums. Trump's message are described in leaked reports. Yeah, right. 5 trillion if they want the war to keep going, 2.5 trillion if they want it to end, presented as a fee for what's being accomplished. Yeah, Donald Trump's a businessman, right? Remember when this buildup was happening, right? And I was saying to you guys, yes, this is definitely happening. I said this was going to happen like years ago. I give you guys the exact dates, but one of the things I was saying is, look, Donald Trump is a businessman. There's a dollar attachment to moving those ships, moving those aircraft. All that stuff costs money. It costs money, and you need to get that money from somewhere. So we're in a new phase of warfare. Just quickly, guys, I'm going to go down on a little side quest. Empires don't vanish, right? Empires don't vanish. They change. So the Roman Empire became a church. The Roman Empire became Catholicism, became Christianity, right? That's what happened to the Roman Empire. The British Empire, they became a bank. They literally became a bank. The American Empire, when it falls, it will become a police force. Right, I'm literally just jumping to the bottom, guys. There's loads of comments. Right, I'm going to get these last few comments, guys, and then I'm going to talk about what's happening in Iran at the moment. In Iran. As a kid, we used to play a game. Hang on. Yeah, I used to play Worms on the what was it, on the PlayStation 1? Worms on the PlayStation 1, guys. Oh, God, what a game. I'm going to try and download that. As a kid, we used to play a game called Worms, and the best weapon was missiles. We could steer on target, so players would set up iron defenses in the air above. Yeah. You had like the homing missiles, didn't you? But you only got a few of them. Sean, Iran to Chagos Islands and Iran to the UK. The difference is 300 miles. So if they can hit the Chagos, they can hit certainly southern England. Yeah, I don't think those strikes with long-range missiles are going to come to the United Kingdom, because that would drag like mainland UK, because that would definitely drag Britain into this conflict. I think the real attacks from Britain, as I've always said, are going to be from sleeper cells. Right. Sean, are you in the new catchment for recall to the army, or have you timed out, or if there is a national mobilization? So I phoned the military up and I said, listen, guys, I've got I told them my background. I told them I've got a load of experience. I told them what I do as a job. I said, I'm available if you guys need me. I didn't hear back from them, so I don't know. I have no idea. Right, I'm just scrolling. Right, okay, so hang on. Right, so I'm going to jump onto now this comment. What's happening in Iran at the moment? Let me just share this with you. So if you guys remember yesterday, this has been updated a minute ago. Right. So if you guys was on the live stream yesterday, while we was on the live stream, there was reports out that the United States the United States Navy would started their assault to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That was all over the media. It was all over the media. And like what I said was counter to what they were all saying on the media. I was like, literally, go and watch my the last video yesterday morning. I said, not a chance. They don't have enough ships. It's too close to land. When you're having a naval battle, if you're in the open water, that's a naval battle. What you would have effectively is the United States Navy trying to defeat a country without going on land. It's just not going to happen, guys. It's absolutely not going to happen. And then today we have this headline. Donald Trump says the US considering winding down war in Iran as its NAT's nuclear facility targeted. Right, that's not what I was talking about. That's changed. Here it is, guys. This on here. President Donald Trump says the US is considered. They've changed that from earlier on. President Donald Trump says the United States is considering winding down operations against Iran, but other nations must guard the Strait of Hormuz, which is vital for vital shipping, oil shipping lane. So he's totally changing his tune from yesterday. Ultimately, guys, this is going to lead to boots on the ground. This is going to lead to boots on the ground in Iran. Once you've got boots on the ground, mission creep, mission slip is absolutely inevitable. So, hang on. Yeah. So, where do we go with this? What you're seeing right now is the, let me read it from here. No, the internet's going crackers here, guys. Right, I'm trying to get this article up here. So Donald Trump is saying, this was yesterday, we are getting very close to meeting our objectives as we consider winding down our great military efforts in the Middle East with respect to the terrorist regime of Iran, he says. Now, the United States are in such a pickle at the moment. There is such a situation because if they say, you know, if the United States claim that they've destroyed all the Iranian long-range missile capabilities, destroyed their military, destroyed this, destroyed that, and then as soon as he says that, 2 missiles fire to the Chagos Islands, kind of doesn't look like they've achieved their, you know, it kind of doesn't look like they've achieved their military objectives, right? Because if one of your military objectives is, and you know, literally as soon as this went in, the initial military objectives were to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment program, destroy their long-range missile capability, and destroy their navy. That was their 3 initial you know, objectives. Now, if the Iranians are still firing long-range missiles, to me, anyway, guys, to me as an observer, that says that the long-range missile capability has not been destroyed. Now, turning to the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump said, so if you guys remember yesterday in the morning, the media was saying, you know, it was all out in the mainstream media yesterday morning that the United States Navy have started their, you know, their military operation, I guess, to open the Strait of Hormuz. That was in the morning. In the afternoon, Trump then says the Strait of Hormuz will have to be guarded and policed as necessary by other nations who use it. The United States does not, as in the United States doesn't use the Strait of Hormuz, and they don't get any of their oil from there. If asked, we will help these countries in the Strait of Hormuz, in their Strait of Hormuz efforts, but it shouldn't be necessary once Iran's threat has been eradicated. Importantly, it will be an easy military operation. So going back to the comment I just read, and I don't know how much, you know, I don't know if that's true or not, but it does look like Donald Trump is now looking for financing to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. And we are in this new stage of war now. You know, gone are the days. I mean, can I get the United States military to come and sort my neighbor's fence out if I pay enough? You know, at what stage? At what stage does the United States just become a mercenary army, right? You know, a full-scale state-sponsored mercenaries. You know, yeah, we want you to go and attack this country. Well, you're going to have to pay us. Yep, we'll pay you. Well, there you go. There it's good. Job done. So you can see how there is total confliction at the moment from by the hour. Literally by the hour, there are conflicting reports. And regardless to what everybody else is saying on the media, boots on the ground, it's going to happen at some point. Donald Trump is trying to waive that as much as he can because he doesn't want, you know, US military coming back in with, you know, in little boxes with flags draped over them. Nobody does. I don't want that, and I certainly don't want US boots on the ground in Europe. I think that's our problem, and we need to deal with that. It's going to lead to boots on the ground. It's going to lead to mission creep, and ultimately, this is not going to be over for 3 to 5 years. People are, one of the things where people get so worried and anxious is if you tell someone what's happening, a good way to stop people being anxious, right, is and gain their trust. Be honest with them, right? Controversial, I know, ladies and gentlemen. Controversial, I know. Be honest. When you go on man management courses in the military, if you're in the military, right, you're gonna have to be asking your guys to go over the top with you, and you kind of need their trust. So you have to build trust with your guys, and you know there's not a course you go on the military and they tell you to lie to your guys. It just doesn't happen. And I see this in the private sector, and I can just sniff it out. Anyway, sorry, let me digress. I'm digressing. If you tell people what's coming, it's crap. You know, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but you're like, right, okay, well, that's it then. That's it. You know, that's it. If you tell people, no, that's not going to happen. No, that's not going to happen. No, we'll figure a way around it. You look like a bullshitter. Nobody believes you, and it just makes things worse. So I think what the government should do is just say, yeah, this is coming. It's going to be difficult for everyone. I don't see this conflict to be over until 3 years. But give people real objectives and say, right, when those objectives are met, that's it. We're going to go. Because doing things little by little, it just causes anxiety, like national anxiety. It causes people to like right now, I can guarantee right now, there will be people in the United Kingdom across the West who will be, I don't know, making something with steel. I don't know. Or something where they need gas, right? Something where they need gas. I don't know. I don't know. And they will be saying, right, let's just keep open for another. Right, okay, Donald Trump says it's almost over. It's almost over. Yeah, let's just keep over. Let's just keep it open. Let's just keep it open. Oh, yeah, let's just keep it. Oh, we'll keep open for another week. Yeah, we'll pay the bills. We'll pay this. We'll do that. We'll start that other one. Yeah, everything will be fine soon. And they're destroying themselves because they don't know what's coming. They're going to have to let their staff go, and it's going to be catastrophic. If you're, if you can let your staff go, look, guys, and when you're running a company, sometimes you have to let staff go. It's not nice, but you have to think, right, okay, I'm not getting enough money in. I can't keep paying everybody their salary. And you look out and you just see people doing like daft stuff, and you think, right, these guys are not earning their money. Remember, private companies, the main, the only role of a private company is to generate as much income as possible. That's it. Nothing else, guys. All right. They're not there to do products. They're not there to do services. They're there to get as much money as possible by doing the minimum, right? With the highest margin. That's what private companies are there for, guys. Okay. Nothing else. So there's going to be companies absolutely going bust, guys, and it's gonna happen abruptly, because when those companies realize that the gas price is just going up and it's not going to come down, when they realize that this war in the Middle East is just getting worse and worse and worse, when they realize that everything's collapsing, and then the war in Ukraine happens, it's going to be a lot worse for people. So a good way to gain people's trust is not to lie. And that's what I feel all politicians do at the moment. They just lie. But then we have, the public. The public are to blame for as well. People in the public don't want to, they would rather hear a pleasant lie than a hard truth. They would. People would rather hear a pleasant lie than a hard truth. And people don't believe the hard truths either. I've noticed this, I've absolutely noticed this. Like when it was 2020 COVID-19 time, my dad, he was in denial. My dad was saying, no, this is not coming here. Not a chance. I said, why are you saying that? He said, no, I just won't. We'll, our doctors are, no, it just won't come here. And, when the first case was announced, I said, Dad, it's here now. That's it. It'll just multiply. My dad was in absolute denial, and he didn't want to accept the reality. And he was doing everything he could to, convince himself that it wasn't here, and it was. Do you know what? A better example. When we moved into this house, our house used to be flats, and it was changed back into one property. And the upstairs bedroom, the master bedroom, it's been turned into 2 bedrooms now. So it used to be 1 living room. It's 2 bedrooms now. And anyway, sorry. Let me rewind. When we first moved in, you know, it's an old stone, it's an old stone house, right? And we couldn't afford furniture for all the rooms. So like some of the rooms were just empty. And like when you go into an empty room, it's creepy, right? So one of the bedrooms, I kept noticing that the light kept turning on randomly in that bedroom. So I'd get up in the night and I'd go to the toilet and the light would be on in one of the bedrooms with nothing in. So I'd open the door. Okay, so I'd turn it off and I would lie to myself. I'd say, yeah, I must have been in there earlier and just flicked it on. And then I'd be in the garden and I'd be mowing the lawn and it'd be getting dark and I'd look up and the lights would be on again. Anyway, so I was lying to myself. I was telling myself that I'd been in there and I'd turned that light switch on. What it was, the master bedroom used to be the living room, and the light switch in the master bedroom, there's 2 of them, and it turns on the bedroom light in the other room. But I was lying to myself, right? I didn't want that uncomfortable truth where, yeah, there's Gary the Ghost in the house. I didn't want to accept that Gary the Ghost was in the house, and I was absolutely lying to myself. Turns out Gary the Ghost wasn't in the house. It was just an electrical. Oh, hang on, guys. This has literally just come out from the BBC. Hang on, guys. Breaking from the BBC. Literally just this minute. Iran did launch missiles. Oh, hang on. No. So hang on. Right. There's 2 things here. Right. Britain needs to be certain if missiles were fired at US-UK base, former general says. Right. Iran did launch missiles at Diego Garcia. BBC understands. The BBC News understands that Iran did launch missiles at the UK base on Diego. It's not on Diego Garcia. It is Diego Garcia. It's on the CHAGOS Islands. They don't know what they're talking about, guys. Don't worry about it. I'll keep everybody on the straight and narrow. It's understood the attack was unsuccessful and happened before the UK announced an expansion of American use of British bases last night. Yeah, that's a huge thing, that, guys. It really is. MOD doesn't confirm or deny US media reports on Diego Garcia. Right, this has all been coming out in the last couple of minutes, actually. Right, okay. So from the BBC, again, take that what you will. It does look like everybody's reporting this now that there was an attack, confirmed Iranian missiles towards the CHAGOS Islands. So it turns out the long-range missile capability has not been destroyed. Who told Sean to read a BBC article? Yeah, guys, listen, if you're new to the channel, if I share a BBC article, I don't get taken down for fake news. And I understand that the BBC are terrible for fake news. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works, right? That's literally the way it works. I used to get a lot of videos taken down and people would say it's fake. Like, for example, you know, for them, I've been doing members only videos and I've been talking about I've been talking about a second war front opening up in Ukraine. Now, I've been getting this information from my sources in Ukraine, but nothing was out on the mainstream media. Now, as soon as something came out on the mainstream on the media, I could share that because it's not fake news then. Oh, hang on a minute. Google Enos is saying the main threat to shipping may be one that American jets cannot see or easily target. A small fleet of Iranian midget submarines designed for the shallow, murky waters of the Gulf. Yeah, so these have been very successful in Ukraine. They've been using what are they? What, jet skis? I think, is it jet skis? I think it's jet skis. Yeah, they've been using jet skis to move, you know, to operate maybe like 5 feet under the water or something. So deep water, deep ocean, you know, you've got US submarines, ping, 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 sending sonar out, getting returns and everything. That little bit of water at the top, maybe 5 feet under the water, very difficult to detect things there, guys. But, you know, small things like 5 feet under the water, it's very difficult to detect them because the with the waves moving, you can't really differentiate between like a shark or a fish and you know, one of these underwater, like Googlinos is saying there, a small fleet of Iranian midget submarines. I'm just jumping down. Siligalari is saying most things are. I don't know. What did Theodore say? Oh, YouTube is Jewish, right? Siligalari is saying, right. Most things are, and at the end of this war, everything will be. Fred is saying, I say that the Earth's gravity wasn't always centered, so things got lighter or heavier to what? To carry as big as boulders. Are we talking about the pyramids or something? Okay. Right, I'm jumping to the bottom, guys. There's loads of comments. Jeremiah is saying, Dragoon Army is in Canada. Last time I checked, and not only is Dragoon, but is the beloved Eagle Oath of God of the Republic of America canon? Okay. Googleinos are saying Jeremiah is drunk. Listen, I don't think now. Listen, it's not the time to be. It's not the time to be sober. Right now is not the time to be sober, guys. I've only just thought of that context there, guys. Let me just Google this. Let me see if this is on because I don't want to get into trouble. Hang on. Yep. It's definitely out there. It's definitely out there. I can share this. Give me a second. Yep, 5 hours ago, guys. 5 hours ago. Oh God! Right, I'm going to share this. Right, we're going to have some humor. We're going to have some humor. Iran has midget submarines that could attack US Navy aircraft carriers. Is anyone else visualizing this, or is it just me? Is anyone else visualizing these little submarines manned by little Iranian people? Is anyone else visualizing that right now? Running around. Do they have midget missiles as well? I don't know, guys. Listen, I'm reading this. This is not me. I'm not making this article up, guys. That's the article there, okay? Iran has midget submarines that could attack United States Navy aircraft carriers. Basically, what these are, look, guys, I don't actually know what they are. Oh no, they're actually no. Okay, right. Let me just Google this because this is something I'm not a naval guy. Let me just Google this. So what I was thinking is in Ukraine, the Ukrainians have had good success jury rigging a go on. Jet skis, basically. So they've reworked jet skis and made them into like underwater drones that go just under the water. However, these things are certainly not them. These are 120-ton machines, which is, let me Google this. I don't. So this is what they're talking about. Is a class of, this is what they're called, is a class of midget submarine built by Iran specifically for cruising within the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf. The Islamic Republic of Iran's Navy is the sole operator of this class, whose submarines all serve the Southern Fleet. No submarines of this class are active at the Northern Fleet, i.e. the Caspian Sea. Right. What are they armed with? So, yeah. So one of the things here, when you look at naval forces, when you do a side-by-side comparison with naval forces, military forces, the Iranians have been preparing for this for like 40 years. They've been looking at what the United States military has, and they've been thinking of ways to counter that. Now, the Iranian Navy has not been built for force projection. The United States military has been built for force projection, and they have bases and operations all over the world. What I think we're going to see is all of that Navy being pushed into, pushed initially into the Persian Gulf, and then through the Strait of Hormuz, and then into the, initially in the Gulf of Oman, then into the Persian, through the Strait of Hormuz. So these little submarines, and I'm just reading these for at the same time as you guys, are little submarines basically that have literally been made to patrol that region. With them being smaller, they're going to be harder to find, right? And you would suspect that these things have been pretty much untouched. What I would have done if I was Iran, when I saw the US military come in, I would have moved all those submarines away from any military base, and I would just have them under the water, because you know what, submarines are okay under the water. So before if I was the Iranian supreme leader or whatever, when I saw this military buildup, as a as a precaution, I would have just said, right, get all the submarines, just put them somewhere random, by an island somewhere, keep one person on it or something. And then if we need to go and get them, we sail out there, rubber dinghies or whatever. We go out there, we get in the submarines, and then we use the submarines. But I think these will be pretty much untouched for now. Right, Theodore. Right, I'm going to put Theodore in timeout, right? I'm going to put Theodore in timeout for a bit, all right? I think Theodore needs to calm down, right? I think Theodore needs to calm down. Yeah, Ruben's right. Theodore's gone. Yeah, Theodore's on the naughty step. Listen, guys, hang on a minute. Listen, I totally understand, if you've got adverse opinions, all right? If you've got a reason, throw it out there, put facts out there, say, hey, do you know what? I don't like this particular, I don't like this particular brand of car because their carburetors always fail and their fuel filters use a 5 micron filter, and and they don't, and a lot of dirt gets through and the engine normally breaks, right? Or something like that. And then we can say, oh, right, okay, I didn't realize that particular brand of car used a 5-micron filter on that. I'm just making it up, but like, don't just throw out nasty stuff, guys, because it's ridiculous. Googleinos is saying research. While there is no official census for the number of people with right, okay, so there's your workforce there, right? So there's a big workforce, right? There's a big workforce in Iran for these midget submarines. I can't believe they actually call them midget submarines. Silly is saying he wants to show his support for Jews, but he doesn't need to spam the charge. Can just send flowers. Yeah, I don't know what the spamming is, guys. I think, I mean, I know people are watching this from different parts of the world, so maybe they're Maybe some people are just drunk. And Darklight is saying you must have a very sad life coming into a chat to rage bait Atheo. Right, listen, guys, I am going to start to close this down. It's summer. The summer's starting to come. We're starting to get right, okay, I'm starting to understand where this is going. Right, okay. Right. Amir Drunk. I think Amir Drunk is Theo as well. Yes. Googleinos, I've just put him in timeout as well. Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, I just saw that. He's got in timeout as well. He's in timeout. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, the crux of this live stream has been the breaking news. Hang on. Cheryl, do you still think Storm will put boots on the ground? Yes, I don't think there's any question. There's like there's no question in my mind that this is going to happen. The only question is when. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it will definitely happen. Now, the crux of this live stream has been the CHAGOS Islands, which is British territory, has been attacked. That's official now, guys. That's out from the BBC. This was allegedly by an Iranian missile. Now, the thing that we don't understand is, and again, I don't need to know, but one of the things that we don't understand is what Iranian missile it was, because the claimed maximum range of Iranian missiles are 2,000 kilometers. Now, the CHAGOS Island is maybe 4,000 kilometers away or something. So that's futile at best. So we don't know what's going on there. One of two scenarios is, one, the Iranians just decided to fire missiles and hope for the best and waste 2 of their good missiles. I don't think that was the case. The second scenario is the Iranians have better, equipment than we've been told, which I think would be the case. Now, Donald Trump's come out as well, and he said that they've closed all their military objections have been, all their military objections. Stop it, you guys! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I'm in bits here, guys. I'm in bits. I can't. Right. They're just like big submarines, only littler. They can do everything a big submarine can do. So Donald Trump also, he's been saying that the military objectives have been dealt with in Iran. Now, this comes literally just before they fired long-range missiles to the CHAGOS Islands. So at best case scenario, the military objectives have not been achieved. Very soon, guys, we are going to see that new front opened up in Ukraine. It will happen. It has to happen quickly, like really quickly. It has to happen. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. I'm probably going to come on in I'm probably going to come on this afternoon, and I might do like a real short video. And on that video, I will literally just say why I still, why I still support Donald Trump. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will bid you good morning. I'll see you later.